In today's video, I'm going to be using one of these to try to create something a little bit different. I hope you'll enjoy it. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. During this lockdown period, I've been searching for ways to keep my creativity going. The first thing that I've been doing here is my photography from a balcony project, which hopefully you might have seen some of. And I've also had a go at some macro photography. Now what I'm actually going to do is create a YouTube playlist of all of the videos that I'm shooting during this lockdown period. Just more for reference than anything else. But if you're interested in seeing the kind of thing that I'm doing, then I'll stick a link to that up there now, and please check it out and keep on checking it out for more ideas. Now, as I've been searching for different things to shoot or different photography techniques to try out, one of the things I've been frustrated by is the number of things or the number of techniques that requires equipment or facilities that I just don't have. In particular, off-camera flash. I keep finding techniques that I think I'd like to try, but it needs off-camera flash. Now I do have a separate flash gun that I bought years ago and I've never used, but I don't have any way to trigger it remotely. I don't have a remote triggering setup for it, so I've kind of been stopped from doing any of those things. So I was delighted when I came across a technique which uses things that I do have. Now what it uses is a computer screen, it uses a circular polarizer, and it uses some kind of clear plastic. And what it is it makes use of the way that a circular polarizer interacts with light that's coming through something plastic, and I'm hoping it's going to be an interesting effect. Now today's video is going to be about the basics. I'm going to set it up in a really basic way and just take some basic images, and I'll show them to you, and maybe I'll show you some of the post-processing as well. If this works out in the basics, then I'm kind of thinking there might be another video to be made a bit later on where I take the basics and expand on it and maybe try do some other things with this particular technique. Anyway, I hope you'll find it enjoyable. If you do and you're not already a subscriber, please consider hitting subscribe, and if you are a subscriber, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, let's get set up and I'll then talk you through exactly what it is I'm doing. Okay, so here's my setup. I've got my camera on the tripod and my 50mm lens on. I've got my little plastic champagne flute thing sitting on some boxes, and I've got it in front of my computer screen. Now my computer screen, I've put a white background on, pure white background. It's just a JPEG that I've created and I'm just displaying it in full screen mode. And what I've done is I've turned the brightness on my monitor all the way up so that it's as bright white as possible. Now I did consider the possibility of turning my screen around and giving myself a bit more working room, but the reason that I have my office layout like this with my desk facing this way and my screen facing this way is I've got a big window over there. And the reason I have it set up this way is to avoid having light from the window falling on the screen when I'm doing photo and video editing, because it's a distraction. and it would be the same thing now. If I turn the monitor around, I'd have light coming in from the big window falling on the screen, and that might create all sorts of shadows and reflection and things that I don't want. So I've got my composition set up basically with the flute right in the middle of the frame, chopping out the bottom because I don't need it and it's an ugly plastic thing anyway, and making sure that all of the plastic flute is in front of the white screen. So in other words, the white computer screen is filling up the entire frame. Now at the minute it looks pretty pathetic, and if I show you what it looks like, what I'll do, I'll start off, let me just take you off of here for a second. So that's what it looks like right now. It's pretty boring, isn't it? In fact, what I'll do, I'm going to stick it into video mode. Okay, so in video mode, I'll just record a little bit so you can see what it looks like. And then what I'm going to do is put the circular polarizer on, and you can see what difference it makes. How about that? That is a big difference to the way that looks. And that's the effect of the polarizer with that light coming through that clear plastic flute. So what I want to do on this is make sure that I've got my focus. I'm going to focus on the front edge of the rim of this plastic flute. I'm not worried if the back edge of it isn't in focus, which it almost certainly won't be. Okay, what I'm also going to do is adjust my exposure to make it as bright as possible, because I want the background to be white. I'm taking it up. I almost don't care if I'm blowing out the highlights in the background. Keep it nice and bright. So I'm going to be shooting f8 1/3 of a second, just with a 2-second timer. I don't need to leave it there. What I can do is now start playing around with the polarizer and seeing what it does to the image. So if I turn the polarizer to the left a little bit, what that's doing is it's actually making the background brighter. If I turn the polarizer further, what it's actually doing, it drops the background array into darkness. I get a black background. That is cool. Now the only thing is that there might be some reflections appearing in the darker part of the scene, but I can probably get rid of those in post just by dropping the blacks and the shadows down a little bit. Okay, that's pretty cool. I like that. I think it's time to chuck them over into Lightroom and have a look and see what we can do with them. Okay, I've got my 3 images in Lightroom, so let's have a look and see how they come out and what we can do with them. Okay, so here's my first image, and this was the one I basically just put the polarizer on. I haven't really played around with it, and the background is more grey than white. So I'm going to leave this one for a minute, and instead I'm going to look at this one. Now this one I had played around with the polarizer a bit, and that brightened the background as much as I could, and my exposure was trying to keep detail in the plastic glass thing. So it certainly looks better. So let's start off lens corrections. I always do this. And then into the basics. Let's have a look and see. At the minute there's no blown highlights in there, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to bring the whites up quite a bit. Maybe bring the highlights up. I'm not too worried about the edges because I can deal with those later. Yeah, okay, that looks like it's giving me a nice white blown out area around there. Of course, it's also blowing out some stuff in the glass, which isn't ideal. So if I go in here, if I click on brush, and I'm just going to pull the highlights back a bit here and just brush, oops, show me the mask there. Just brush the majority of those blown highlights out in the glass. Maybe put it back a bit further. Not worried if there's some blown out in there because that'll add to the effect, but just take a little bit out. Maybe just take the second one. Let's turn the indicator off. Okay, yeah, that looks alright. I've also kind of messed up this bottom corner a little bit. I obviously had a little bit of the bottom edge of the monitor in there. Not too worried about it because I'm going to crop this image anyway. So let's do that now. Let's crop it 1:1. I'm just going to rotate it a fraction just to make it look a bit straighter. And that's got rid of most of that down there. I'll use the effects actually and put in a pale vignette. That'll get rid of even more. Okay, into basics. I'm going to boost the contrast quite a bit. I'm going to boost the vibrance loads. I mean, this is all about colour and shape, so loads of vibrance, big chunk of saturation, and I'm going to put in some clarity as well. And then let's mask it for the sharpening like that. I mean, it's certainly something different. I'd probably change the crop on this and go to maybe a 8x10 crop this way. Okay, I know I'm throwing away a load of pixels, but you know, this isn't the kind of thing you're necessarily going to want to print very large anyway. And that certainly looks a bit different. Let's have a look at the second one. The second one is after I rotated that polarizer around a lot and it dropped the background away into darkness, and I think I prefer this one actually. So again, we'll do the lens corrections on it, and I think I'm going to crop this one. I think I'll do it again, an 8x10 crop. Kind of like that. Okay. So although this background is dark, it's not completely dark. So now that we've got this one like this, just adjust that crop a fraction, I think. Okay. Into the basics, and what I'm going to boost the contrast on this one. Let's have a look. Pull the blacks back. Let's make it that background black, as black as we can. Oh, look at that. Okay. Loads of vibrance. Loads of saturation. And some clarity. Oh, I like that. Yeah, I like that. That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Let's bring that up down a bit more that way. Yeah, I like that. Okay, sharpening. We don't need any sharpening in the black. There we go. Look at that. Well, that's certainly a different effect, isn't it? Okay, so that's a bit of fun, and actually I really quite like the results I got. I think the black background one, the dark background one in particular, has come out really well. I will confess I was considering taking the white background one into Photoshop and inverting it to create a black background, but I don't think I need to. I think I've got, you know, one nice one with a white background and one probably slightly nicer one with a black background. Now, as I said, this video was really about just doing the basics of this technique, but I can see all sorts of potential here to do other things with this. I can add other elements into the frame, maybe some other plastic, maybe some plastic in the background, maybe I could spray some water on the glass, maybe I could put some water in the glass. I don't know, there's all sorts of things that I think I could do. Maybe doing a macro version where I'm getting into some detail. I think there's a subsequent video to be done here taking this technique a bit further, but it's a really, really simple technique. You don't need a lot of specialist gear. A computer screen, you could use a laptop, you could use a tablet, so long as it's big enough to be able to fill the frame. Some kind of plastic, clear plastic container. I mean, I had this, where's it gone? Plastic glass thing, which I've put out of the way somewhere now, but I had the plastic glass, but I guess you could use any kind of plastic cup or plastic bottle. I don't know, anything would probably work. You could maybe use other forms of plastic if you can sort of find a way to stand them up, and a circular polarizer. And circular polarizer is something, as I said earlier, if you're a landscape photographer in particular, you should have one in your kit bag, so it should be easy enough to do. As I said, it's pretty basic, but a lot of fun. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please consider hitting that thumbs up, give it a like, share it on social media, leave me a comment. If you're not a subscriber, please consider hitting subscribe. And, as always, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch. So until the next video, stay safe, stay healthy, thank you very much, and bye.